Anthony Fasano here from Pass the PE Exam. In this video, myself and Nabeal Khatib, a licensed professional engineer, discuss a framework that you can use to help you prepare and pass for the PE exam, as well as a widely unknown tip about how you might be able to get some more time in the afternoon session when you take your PE exam. We've got some great stuff for you in this one. This Pass the PE Exam video is brought to you by PPI, a leader in engineering exam prep for the FE and PE exams since 1975. PPI provides expert prep courses and study resources designed to help you pass the PE exam the first time. PPI's live online courses include hours of lectures, problem-solving demonstrations, exam strategy sessions, office hours, and a passing guarantee. When you take a live online course, PPI guarantees you will pass, or you can take the on-demand course for free. With study guides, practice exams, and more, the PPI Learning Hub offers digital practice and review that you can take with you anywhere you have a device so that you can prepare during the times most convenient for you. Check out PPI today at ppi2pass.com to see all the options available for PE exam prep. Let's dive in. All right, so let's jump into today's episode of Pass the PE Exam. I have with me my guest, Nabeal Khatib. Nabeal, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Anthony. I appreciate the time that you're taking to host me. I will be sharing some knowledge, and they are not much. I don't have a lot of knowledge, but I will share the knowledge that I have.
Oh, I know you have a ton of knowledge, and you're going to be very helpful. And to start us off, though, Nabeal, tell us a little bit about yourself and what field of engineering you are in.
So I am Nabeal Khatib. I go by Newton. I am a structural engineer. My background is undergrad civil engineering from the University of Colorado, and my master is structural as well. I am about to get my PhD in hopefully about a year or so from the University of Colorado, Boulder/Denver.
Wow, that's awesome. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
All right, so when did you take the PE exam, and what format did you take it in, the pen and paper or the computer-based?
So I took the PE back on April 1st, 2022, this year, exactly about 8 months ago. It was CBT, computer-based test, and it was a heck of a test.
So, I'm glad you took the CBT. I mean, I think one of the bigger things that kind of has changed between the CBT and the PBT, or the pen and paper based exam, is that the CBT is no longer that open book exam. I know that when I took the test a long time ago, I had a wagon full of resources and books that I kind of carted into the exam, and kind of so did everybody else. So talk about how that changed the way that you prepared for the exam.
So Anthony, the preparation, to be honest, does not really, or you should not be affected by the formatting. Let me put it that way. So the only thing that you want to be aware of, that you have to use the tools that they are available for you. So for the CBT, you're not going to be, taking your, suitcase to the test and bring all these, books. Oh, I wrote something here. I should, review. And you maybe teach yourself during the test. That is not going to help you anymore. So you got to be prepared for the CBT, format. It's basically split screen. On your right is going to be the questions. It's pretty similar to the FE now. And then on your left, it's going to be the NCS handbook, and it's version 1.1 for the civil PE. And there's like, the last, changing formatting for the NCS to change it from a paper and pencil to the CBT is the civil actually exam. Another thing that you want to add on top of that, if you're taking the structural, for example, I took the structural. So you got to be aware that you have about 11 manuals that you need to be familiar with. And the sad thing, that you're not going to be able to see the format for these manuals until the day of the test. So they're ACI, yes, they're ACI. The ACI is there. You could see the PDF version, but it might not be similar on the test, meaning OSHA. OSHA has all these subparts. On the day of the test, you're not going to see subparts. You're going to see all in one PDF, the 1910. the 1926. So that makes life sometimes harder. I really had hard time, especially with OSHA. I'm not an OSHA guy.
So let me stop you for a minute there. We have a lot of viewers, like all different engineering disciplines. So depending on the discipline or the breadth of the exam that they're taking, there's a different workbook that they're going to have to open up.
Yes, exactly. So for geotech, or for water resources, or for transportation, you'll have the same thing, the breadth. And a lot of people say 40 questions, 40 questions. That's not the case. So for the breadth is 41 questions, and for the depth is 39. And the NCS does not grade all these questions based on my experience. They grade 70 questions only out of the 80. So if you see your diagnostic report, you're going to count how many numbers, how many questions. You're going to find out there are 70. Typically, they take the minimum numbers. That's based on an experience. And this is not official. This is just my own experience with my clients. So I teach FE prep course. I teach PE, civil structural. And I see people coming to me and say, well, here's my diagnostic report. I failed the test. Why? Because one category that he failed, people sometimes, oh, I could do very well on the breadth, and I'm not going to do so on the depth. And they fail. Trust me, they will fail if they do not do well on both of them.
So going back to what you said earlier about the workbook being in a different format. So are any of these resources available for you to prep with, or are they all just going to get them on the day of the exam?
So you, as a structural engineer, I do have an access for ACI or the steel manual or the masonry, any other manuals, either from your company, if you work as a a practice structural engineer or a practice civil engineer, or sometimes you can get them whether from school, from friends, even online. OSHA is online, IBC is online. Let's see what else online. NDS, the timber manual is also online.
So Nabeal, this is different than the FE in that there isn't like one reference handbook. They just tell you there's a bunch of codes you have to study with, and we're going to have those available for you on the exam.
Exactly. Yep. So your basically your job, you need to make sure that you're familiar with the breadth manual, which is the NCS reference manual, the
Right.
PE,
Which you
and
can
that's
get
for
ahead of time.
exactly. That is easy. You can go to the NCS website and download that again on your, right on the dashboard within the view reference, manuals or reference handbooks. And then you could get that one. It's version 1.1. But if we're talking about the depth, your depth is going to be your manuals. You're not going to have an access because they have some copyrights. They can't publish these. American Concrete Institute, they publish their own manual. You need to get a copy of that. You need to pay some dollars in order to get the manual. But you could, as a practice civil engineer or structural engineer, you will have hopefully an open source for you, a library in your company that you can go on your G drive or whatever drive that your company is using and download these manuals. They could be old. That's not a problem. But want to make sure that you're up to date and the same format is going to happen. They change the code every 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, whatever. It's pretty similar. They're just, change, here, adding something here and there, whatever.
Small changes.
Exactly.
So does the NCSS at least tell you what codes to prepare with for the depth exams so you know what to look at?
Yep, Anthony, if you go to the NCS/specifications, if I'm not mistaken, and then you go to the civil, for example, and then you'll have civil geotech, civil structural, civil transportation, water resource and environmental, and then construction. I think 5 categories. When you it's like typically a 5 pages PDF, and it will tell you exactly a summary of what the topics are going to be on. The first 8 topics are typically for the breadth. They're like project management, some means and methods, soil mechanics, structural mechanics, materials, hydraulics, H&H stuff, transportation or geometrics, and then like basically some safety stuff. That is 8 topics for anyone who's taken the CBT civil PE. But then you get from 9 to 11 or 9 to 13 depends on your test, your discipline. You get for like structural, you get like analysis and design, some of like the manuals, safety or temporary structurals, or shear walls, stuff, other more subtopics that is more for the discipline that you're taking, if that makes sense.
Awesome. No, that's awesome. All right. So let me summarize this before we go on, because I got a couple more questions for you. So essentially, for those of you not that familiar with the test, there are two sections. There's the morning or the breadth section, which has kind of variety of different engineering types on it. But then in the afternoon or the depth section, it's going to go into depth on a section that you choose which discipline you want to go into depth on. And in terms of the morning, you're going to have a reference book available to you that you can study with prior to the exam, and then it will be there in the console when you get into the exam that you can search through it. However, for the afternoon sections, you'll have to go and download the specification for that exam, which we're going to put a link to here in below the video. And then you can see what codes or other materials they recommend that you study with that'll be available for you to look at during the exam. You just can't get the exact PDFs that they're going to have on the exam, but you can get access to the manuals through your company and through your other outlets, libraries, etc. So that's
exactly. I just want to add one piece.
Go ahead.
So the NCS reference handbook and the specifications, they call them design specifications, they are both of them available the entire time of the test. So the 8 hours. So some people will see some questions, and I always get this question. I saw a question on technically depth structure on the breadth. Yes, you might get a question on the breadth, but it's more of like a structural depth or a geotech depth. Most likely they might not grade that question and have it for just like a survey type of thing. Okay. But you might receive, or you might see some of these questions on the breadth where you need to use one of these design specifications.
So just be open and flexible to the fact that you may need to pull one of those other manuals for the morning or for the afternoon, or vice versa.
Exactly. Yep.
Okay, great. All right, so Nabeal, the old PBT exam had a 50-minute break that would kind of take place halfway through the exam, kind of separating the breadth or the AM portion from the depth or the PM portion. However, this doesn't exist anymore. There's no such thing as separate breadth and depth portion anymore. What was that like for you?
It has actually, there is 50 minutes.
Oh, they still give you 50 minutes.
Yep.
Okay.
The only thing that was changed, you don't have to spend and this is something that I wish I knew before. You don't have to spend the entire 4 hours before you take your 50-minute break. So you could save time to have, more time on the depth. Because, as a structural engineer, when you take these, questions, and you need to think, it's not going to be possible to solve a question in 6 minutes only. So you might need like 10 minutes or something. So I wish I knew it. I was like solving the problem, and I finished the breadth in 70 minutes only. So I literally had almost 3 hours to just stare at the screen and say, I wish I can take these 3 hours and put them on the the depth where I can probably get these OSHA silly questions. Because you'll get a OSHA question, the manual is like 2,000 pages, or the steel manual is like 2,500. So that's something that I
Wait,
really...
So back up to your exam. So you finished, and then were you able to carry those 3 hours over to the afternoon session?
I did not know this. So I thought that they're not going to be carried to the other portion. So I stayed almost 3 hours just checking my answer. And then after that, I raised my hand. They said, I want to take a break, the 50-minute break. And she looked at me. She's like, oh, yeah, you could take it. I said, I wish I could have taken it before. And she said, oh, you could easily, take the break without, spending 4 hours. And I looked at her, I was like, oh, I wish I knew it.
So is that for all testing centers, or that was just where you went?
No, that's pretty much for all.
So you
have one of my client.
So one of my client took it in longer.
Exactly. One of my client, he actually took it in Wyoming, and he did 3 hours for the breadth and 5 hours for the depth.
Wow. I mean, that's I never heard that before. That's a game-changing piece of information, because
exactly.
if you take the 4 hours and divide it by 39 or 40 questions, you can figure out the amount of time you're going to have for each one, like Nabeal said.
Yep.
But if you're taking it like something like a structural, which is a very in-depth afternoon section with lots of calculations that could be lengthy, it's not that easy to be able to crunch out those kind of problems in that short period of time. So if you're able to pick up another hour, I mean, that's like invaluable. That's like, that could be that could easily be the difference.
And especially when you do the math, they're like 6 minutes per each problem. On the breadth, trust me, some of these questions you probably need 30 seconds.
Right. Like
so you're like
choice or something like
exactly, or just which of the following statements. Like I got a question on the buoyancy, and it was literally just like reading the nope, that one, done. It was like 40 seconds. Each statement 10 seconds if you really want to exaggerate.
Right. So you're picking up 5 minutes on that question.
Already. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So the question that everybody wants to know is, how long does it take for you to get your results after you complete the CBT exam?
That is a great question. And this is something that I know very well. So you're going to get your result on Wednesday around 11 a.m. Eastern time. So if you're in the mountain time, 9 in the morning, sometimes even before. One of my clients got his, grade or his result at 7 in the morning mountain time. So that's 9 Eastern.
And Wednesday after the exam.
Exactly, except there's the exception. So if you took it on Monday, you're not going to get it in 2 days. You're going to need to wait another cycle, which is Wednesday. So basically, I remember I took it on Friday. I got the result on Wednesday. If you take it on Saturday, you still get it on Wednesday. If you take past Saturday, there's no slots on Saturday. On Sunday. And then on Monday, if you take it, you're not going to get the result in 2 days. So you're going to wait basically 9 days.
Okay. So it's 9 days max, basically.
Yep. Basically. Yep.
Okay. All right. That's pretty a lot quicker than when I took it. Tell you that much.
Yeah. 3 months?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right. So what other tips can you give our listeners out there that are in the process of studying for their PE exams right now, or maybe they're getting ready to start studying?
Well, again, I like to share the the 4 T's. First T, for people who do not know the acronyms for this, the first T is terms. Please, as someone who's trying to prepare for the test, you get to familiarize. You can't rely totally on your experience. As a PE, I understand that you have tons of experience, or as a practice civil or engineer, you go and say, I can probably crush these 10 questions out of experience. Agree. But there's a lot of questions that you cannot do, or you cannot figure it out without sit on your desk and sharpen your pencil. So number one, you got to make sure that you familiarize yourself. It's not paper and pencil anymore. So you can't grab all these, your notes that you created on your own and just take them to the test and teach yourself during the test. That's not a thing anymore. So number one is familiarize yourself with terms, concepts. 2, make sure that you put in the work. You sharpen your pencil, you do practice, tons of practice problems. I remember I've done almost 1,000 and ish questions on when I prepare for the test. And not because 1,000 and plus questions, they're not a lot. If you really do the math, if you're preparing for 2-3 months and you're solving 10 questions a day or 20 questions, 10 questions should take you an hour if you do the math, because it's 8 hours test, 80 problems, 6 minutes each. Right. So if you do the math, you only need to practice 2 or 3 hours a day. So where you could accomplish about 30 questions, 30 times 30, already you're talking about 1,900, in 1 month only. So you could do probably 3,000 questions if you're preparing for 3 months. The third T is time. time is something people, have issues with, which I agree. Sometimes people ask me, how do you manage your own, work, and you did it to your clients, being a husband, being, a dad or a father,
Yeah.
and a motivational speaker, and then other stuff. I'm also affiliate professor at University of Colorado, Denver. So all these things, how do you manage this? Time, time, time. You got to make sure that you have your own pace. You got to write something on, maybe something like this. You write something on it and you plan for, the day. And the fourth one, trust yourself. Do not let yourself down. Do not always think that you're wrong. There is a big difference between being conceited and cocky and also being confident. A big difference. People sometimes all the time mix between them. I'm
Hmm.
confident. I'm not cocky. No, you're cocky. You're not, all that, thing.
That's
So I
awesome.
hope
No,
that.
I love the TTT framework. So basically, just to kind of recap it there, the first one is terms. Understand the terms involved in the exam so you know what you're going to have to deal with, which is really good when you solve any problem as an engineer. Second T is templates, right? Put in the preparation, prepare, go through, like you said, strictly do a certain number of problems every day and have a good process in place to be able to prepare yourself for the exam. And to be able to do that, you'll need the third T, which is time or time management. And one tip I can give you on that from my own PE exam preparation is I got up every morning early before work. I spent about an hour studying because I knew I kind of made it like my most important task each day leading up to the exam and got it out of the way before anybody could distract me or anything else could happen. And then that fourth T is to trust yourself, because they're definitely going through a process like this with a test of this magnitude while you're working, while you're a parent, while you're, have other things going on in life, is very, very difficult to do. So you really need to trust yourself that you can accomplish this. And I think the first three T's make it a little bit easier to trust yourself, right? If you know the
Exactly.
terms, if you've got good templates and processes in place and you're managing your time effectively, you can trust yourself through the process. So
And you can't skip any T's. You can't just say, I want to trust myself before practice, put in the work and doing time management. It doesn't matter how good you are if you do not solve the problem within a certain time frame, right?
yeah, no, for sure. It's like you got to have every piece of the framework there in place. So, last question I have for you. Some of our listeners may be watching this. They got their FE. They've been working now, and they're ready to thinking about the PE. They're not 100% sure they're going to take it yet. It's a lot of work. We just talked about it. I got a lot of things going on in my life. Based on your experience of going through this process and getting your license, what can you share with them in terms of the benefits of actually putting the time in to study and prepare and getting your license? What can you share with them?
Well, Anthony, something that I always keep telling myself every day, two self-investment that you should do for yourself. One, buying a house. Two, work on your PE license.
Mm.
Because one is you don't want to really, pay all this money and gone rents and keep,
Right.
doing this. Two, you don't want to look at yourself 20 years later and you're still in the same spot.
Yeah.
PE would help you heavily and impact your life to open a firm if you're if you're really a fan of being your own boss and having the agility and the flexibility. You should get your PE. It also opens a lot of good career developments, flexibility, more money, and it also help you when you take the PE and prepare for your PE. You're doing two things for yourself. Number one, you're teaching yourself life is always manageable. Because if you want to take a test that magnitude, as you said, you want to make sure that you play it safely and accordingly. So you teach yourself a lesson that if I really do this accordingly, I could accomplish things. Number two, you teach yourself that nothing is impossible. It just says, I am possible to accomplish this.
That's great. That's awesome. And I'll give you one quick story to kind of reinforce what Nabeal said there in terms of the importance of this, even within a company. If you're trying to, kind of move up within a company,
Yeah.
we're working with a company right now to build them a leadership development program. And I'm working with the CEO, but I've also interviewed a lot of the leaders in the company. And this one leader was really, really sharp guy, and he's managed a lot of people. He's a really smart guy. And so when I was talking with the CEO to give some feedback, I said to him, listen, I got to tell you, this one guy is really, really sharp. Like I could see him doing great things in your company. He said, yeah, he said, he's amazing. He's like, unfortunately, he doesn't have his license. So I can't really, get him to where I want to get him in the organization. I'm trying to get him to go back and get his license. So my point is that you could be the smartest engineer out there, but that credibility, that license, those letters after your name in this industry mean a lot. And there's a lot of organizations that have certain rules about how high you can move in the company, whether or not you have your license. So I know you can't see the future, but what I can tell you, and I think what Nabeal has said to you, is it doesn't matter what the future looks like. Getting your license is only going to help you. It's not
Oh
going to
yeah,
hurt you. I know you're going to put some time in now. You got to spend a bunch of hours doing a lot of problems. But if you do this in 3 to 6 months from now, you can have your license, and that is going to change your life and your career forever.
absolutely. And I have the same story. One of my clients, he passed his test recently, and he is 53 years.
Wow.
And
Good
he
for
took
him.
the he took the CBT. He put in a lot of work. He's smart. I always keep telling him, the only time that I feel myself dumb when I talk to you, because you're so smart. And he doesn't have that, title. But now he's celebrating and he's enjoying. Actually, he's going to Cancun next week, so to celebrate his PE, and well deserved.
No, well
Now he
deserved.
can go up in the ladder.
Yeah, no, it's very difficult. It becomes more and more difficult the later on in life for so many reasons that we've talked about. So, get it wherever you are in your career. You're thinking about it right now. If you're watching us, go and get it. Nabeal's giving you a lot of good tips here. I hope you can leverage some of those tips. You can also certainly find Nabeal online on LinkedIn. You can connect
Please.
with him.
Yep.
So once again, Nabeal Khatib, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us here on Pass the PE Exam.
It was a pleasure, Anthony, for sure.
I hope you found this week's video helpful. In upcoming videos, I will solve more PE exam practice problems and answer other questions from our subscribers. Pass the PE exam videos will be published weekly, so please be sure to click to subscribe to our channel now so that you don't miss something that could make a substantial difference in your exam result. And please, I urge you to ask questions and leave comments below this video, and I will respond to you. Let me know if there's a specific topic that you want me to cover or a question you need answered. Pass the PE exam will have you covered. I'll see you next week.